Well, hello everyone. It's really great to be here, and thank you for VidAI co-founders for inviting me to be here. So I'd like to start my talk with a really simple diagram, and I think some of you might have seen this already. So what I'm showing here is the number of some of the statistics from the NeurIPS conference, which is the #1 AI conference in the world. And if someone looked at this diagram, then they can actually see that the rate at which research development in AI and also investment, the level of investment that is actually put in AI is actually it keep on increasing. So AI is actually a very fast-moving science. Okay. Now, if you're in Vietnam and if you look at the same diagram, whoa, you know, if you don't do anything about this, then there's a risk of being left behind. So I think this is actually quite a big problem. As the field is moving very fast, and if you don't do anything about it, then obviously the distance between us and the frontier of where the field is keep on increasing. Okay, so this is also part of the reason why, when I'm approached by Vingroup with an offer to come back to Vietnam and set up the very first AI research lab in Vietnam, it becomes an opportunity that's really hard to say no to. So this is also the reason why I'm here. I've been with VinAI Research for the last 6 months or so. The lab was set up, I think, back in April. So probably a little bit more than half a year. So we're very new. We're being funded by Vingroup, and we have a mission to focus on top-tier research. Okay, so I think that's really something that sets us apart, and it's also something that gives us a very challenging task to work with as well. Okay, so again, our missions, we have 4 of them, but pretty much the very first thing that we want to do is something that I think haven't been done in Vietnam yet. We want to be able to conduct world-class research in AI and machine learning right here in Vietnam. And as a result of that, we will build a concentration of leading AI expertise for Vietnam and also for Vingroup. And we'll be able to help with the training of the next generation of talents for Vietnam. And of course, because we are in industrial research lab, we care about commercialization, we care about product impact. And we'll serve to be able to provide tech transfer and so knowledge transfer to Vingroup and also other relevant partners as well. Okay. So very quickly, this is the structure of the lab at the moment. What we've been doing is we're focusing on the pillar right in the middle here. Okay, so this is the core research group. I've been spending most of my time for the last 6 months or so trying to build up this group, recruiting the best talents that I can actually find. The idea is that once you build a group of experienced research scientists and well-trained engineers, we will start be able to see the impacts of that. Okay, and in order to utilize this core research group that I'm building here, there's the pillar on the left, which is what we call the AI residency program. And with this AI residency program, the goal is to focus on the training of the next generation of AI talents for Vietnam. So we are attracting the people who have probably just finished their undergrad degrees, or probably are still in the last few years of their undergrad degrees. The people who actually haven't had a chance to get exposed much to the latest development in AI yet, but very smart people. Okay. And I've got to tell you that after working with some of the residents in our lab for the last 3 months, these residents are super smart. Okay, so I'm very happy with that. The pillar on the right-hand side is what we call the Entrepreneurship Partners Program. And the idea here is we'd like to be able to, we would want to be able to partner with startups, building a partnership with them and offering them help in terms of technical expertise, consultancy, and also offering a chance also offering them a chance to be co-located with us as well. Okay, so and of course another thing that we are doing is looking for opportunities to make a commercial impact in tech transfer and product on the applied side within the Vingroup ecosystem. Okay, so the research strategy that we picked is very simple. We want to focus on challenging problems, and we want to focus on improving state-of-the-art. Okay, so I think those are the two bullets that really set us apart from other existing R&D activities in Vietnam. And we are motivated by the data and the context from Vingroup in Vietnam. Okay, so for the next few minutes, I'm going to give you really like a world tour through the kind of research problems, kind of research activities that are actually happening in the lab right now. Okay, so again, all of this should be taken with the context that we are very new. We're only 6 months young. And at the moment, we have a group of about, I think, close to 30 people now. About half of them are research scientists and engineers, and about half of them are residents. And again, the plan is to target this number, the plan is to double this number within the next few months. Okay, so we are still on a very fast growth pace. The people who are currently with us, so we have people who are actually faculties in the US university system. So we have people like Anh Hoài. Anh Khoa, I think Anh Khoa, he actually gave a talk here at the Viet AI Summit last year. So they're both professors in the US, having gone through the CMU system. And they're actually working with us full-time over the summer and then part-time off summer, but they're working very closely with the residents and helping shaping both our research program and also our tech transfer program as well. And then we have people who have decided to come back to Vietnam, people who are former employees at Adobe Research, at Amazon, and so on. And I think this form the really core part of the research group. They are the magnets for both the residents and also for tech transfer activities. Okay. All right. So some of the images about the things that we've been doing. Obviously, we are having fun and we work very hard. And some of this, as you can see, that we're also running a research seminars program from our office, and it's actually being live streamed regularly. At the pace of maybe 1 or 2 seminars per month. And we've had excellent visitors that has come to our lab and give these seminars. So we have people who are faculty at Stanford and Michigan and people from UC Berkeley and so on. Okay, so I'm going to, again, going back to the actual research activities, right? So in terms of the areas of focus, machine learning is clearly #1 on the agenda. And then we are looking at computer vision and NLP, which are areas that are more applied, but are also very important as well. And we are also looking at data that actually coming from multimodal sensors and IoT devices and so on. Right, okay, so I'm going to, within the next few minutes, I'm going to really run through these slides because I don't think I have a lot of time left. But I do want to show you a glimpse of the kind of research activities that are actually taking place at the moment in the lab. Okay, so by the way, all of these slides are being done by the residents, okay? So they're not being done by the research scientists, but the residents are actually actively and sometimes they are main contributors in these research activities. Okay, so the very first thing is representation learning for decision making. And a particular problem that you want to look at here is how we can actually do control or decision making directly from images. Okay, so here's the problem. The input is video images, and you're going to have to try to steer the car, for example. Okay, and you want to be able to do this by learning a representation of the image, and then try to do control over that latent space. Okay, so I'm going to play this. Okay, so. All right, okay, so the video is being loading, and the video is actually showing a new method that we developed, and the code is actually being implemented entirely by one of the residents, and it shows that with the new method, you are able to learn a much more robust and effective representation to solve this problem. Okay, so moving on, more on the computer vision side. We have a research project looking at how we can actually do better image captioning with personality. Okay, so the idea is we're looking at is instead of generating a factual captioning, for example, a woman wearing a green T-shirt, can you actually modify these generated captions with personality to make it more interesting? Okay, next. Okay, so now we are starting to look at a few projects that are more specific or more interesting to the Vietnamese audience. So as you can see, one of the problems with machine learning at the moment is the bias in the data set. So if you don't collect enough data in, for example, the streets of Vietnam, and if you're running a model that has actually been trained on a data set that has to be collected somewhere else, then I think most of you already experienced that the accuracy and also the quality of the model is usually problematic. So one other thing that we want to do is we want to be able to collect a large collection of data specific to the Vietnamese condition. Okay, so here's an example of a project. It's actually in a collaboration with Trường Đại học Khoa học Tự nhiên và UIT Trường Đại học Công nghệ right here in Ho Chi Minh City. So we want to be able to collect a large data set about activities that are actually on the streets of Vietnam. Okay, and from that, it will be able to drive action recognitions, models, and so on that are actually applicable for Vietnam. Okay, another thing that we're doing, and this is actually being done by an intern at our lab, first-year college student. Okay, so he spent some time, and what he did is he built a database of where you can actually detect trash on the streets of Vietnam. Okay, so we ended up having a data source of at the moment I think about 8,000 images, annotated images, and from that you can actually build a system with reasonable accuracy to detect, to see what are the areas that are problematic in terms of this problem in Vietnam. Okay, so it's sort of like a third world country problems. Okay, so moving on. Another project on the computer vision side is we actually revisit one of the really fundamental problem in computer vision, which is background subtraction. So how can I actually pull out the pixels that belong to the foreground from videos and images like this? And obviously, this is a problem that actually has been looked at for many, many years. And what we try to do at the moment is we ask the question whether with the new development of deep learning, can you actually solve this problem on the feature space? Okay, so we are playing with some sort of neural architecture diagram that would allow us to solve this problem more effectively. All right, okay, so biometrics and face recognition, obviously this is an area that has many potential applications. Okay, so we are looking at not only a face recognition problem, but we also want to be able to detect whether the image that you're looking at is actually a real person, or it's actually a photo, or it's actually a video replay of the person, which is actually very useful for authentication and so on. Okay? All right. More interesting things. This is actually being done by a former VietAI member who's actually now a resident with us. So he's looking at the problem how he can actually do more effective image segmentation for retina, for the image of the retina. So one of the problems that we found out is that if you see this kind of images usually is very high resolution, and if you simply apply existing out-of-the-box architecture, then you're not going to be able to look at the full high-def resolution. So you're either going to have to shrink down resolution, or you're going to have to cut the box somehow. And if you do that, then the accuracy could potentially be affected. So what we try to do is how we can actually solve this problem more effectively directly on the high-resolution images. Okay. All right. So moving on to the NNP side, we have a small but growing group focusing on research and also application of NNP. One of the person that is actually leading this group is Anh Thiat, who had a PhD from NIU and also a postdoc in Mila, and he's actually helping us to set up this research program here. So the very first problem that we are looking at is the basic problem with information extraction and also relation extraction. And of course, using the full-blown using the full-blown deep learning architecture underneath this. So as we do that, then obviously it becomes very important to look at models that can actually give us contextual embeddings for Vietnamese language. Okay, so this is also yet another project that we are looking at as well. Okay, reinforcement learning is another area. Which is, it's also a very important area in AI research at the moment. I'm not going to go through this into details because I think I'm running short on time. In terms of the output so far, the lab has produced 5 top-tier papers. So we're going to have 2 papers at NIPS, 2 papers already presented at ICCV. And we will be a NIPS sponsor this year. So if any of you are in Vancouver in December, then we will see you there. Right, okay. So another very important part of the lab is the engineering team. So as I mentioned when I was on stage earlier, in order to really see the transfer of research to the actual product, we need both, research scientists and engineers, and those are the things that are actually well recognized within our lab. So the engineering team is an integral part of the lab. It's directly involved in various research projects and is responsible for the tech transfer activities and also applications towards building actual products. Okay, and we are looking at deployment not only on the cloud, but also on devices as well. Okay, and our plan is to significantly grow our engineering team within the next 6 months or so. Okay, and these are some of the members of our engineering team. We actually, perhaps you can actually see some of them here, right here in the audience as well. Okay, so I want to close down the talk by revisiting our unique position. Okay, so not only that we are a research lab, but we're also an integral part of the Vingroup ecosystem. Okay, so what does that mean? What it means is that in terms of my personal experience, when I talked to VinCommerce Group, they owned the shopping malls, they own the supermarkets. I see a lot of potential application for AI in there. When I talked to the Vinpearl Group, which owns the chain of luxury resorts, I also see a lot of potential for AI applications in there. And similarly for the hospital, similarly for the car, similarly for the smartphones. So I think it's really interesting because as a research scientist, I also care deeply about the actual application and deployment of our ideas in actual products, and I think this really gives us a great opportunity to make some impact, and really imagining the user experience in all of these space and verticals that Vingroup is actually in. All right, so with that, I'm going to stop. So I just want to mention that we're actually online. You can check us out on www.vinaya.io. We're also on Facebook. And I've been told that there's actually a hidden message in this QR code. So if you're interested, you can actually try to figure out what it is. All right. Thank you.